All right, what's up, y'all? Now, I know you've seen the title of this video, so I know you already know what's about to go down. So before I tell you anything, I just want to make sure you know, just because somebody says God told me doesn't mean you should listen to them. In fact, a lot of times, those people are crazy, right? It's a lot of people that drown their kids in the tub and they say, but God told me to do it, right? You know what I'm saying? And we've all seen like that one African prophet who said it was going to be the rapture that in a month, and then it didn't happen, which everybody should have known because Jesus said even he doesn't know the day and time, only the Father knows. You know, they had everybody selling their belongings and all type of stuff, and then it didn't happen, and people were like, yo, can I get my belongings back? No. And then of course there was that guy who said God told him that he was gonna flood the earth again, and so he built a bunch of arks. Why didn't he build one big ark? I don't know. And then people from all across Africa came to him to ride on the arks, and they were sending him money, and then the flood didn't happen. Surprise, surprise. Because of course God says in the Bible that he's never going to flood the earth again, and that was the whole point of the rainbow, to symbolize the promise. Hello. And of course that dude took that money and he was rolling up in the Lexus, so people were really angry and they lit his arks on fire. So yeah, just to say, I say that all just to say you shouldn't trust everybody who tells you they heard a message from God. That includes me. You need to search your own discernment and the Holy Spirit to see if you believe what that person is saying, right? Because ultimately God is the ultimate authority, and nothing supersedes his word, period. So anyway, I'm gonna go through these dreams really quick so it's not like a super long video. But basically I was 17 years old. I have a dream where it's kind of like my POV. And I'm coming out of a truck with a bunch of people. All our hands are raised, and there's like Russian soldiers pointing guns at us. And I wake up from the dream, and I don't know what made me say this or think this, but I was just like, is this something that's happening in the latter days? Is America gonna get into a war with Russia? And I just thought that. But of course I'm 17, I'm young. These aren't things that I'm worried about. So I kind of just put it in the back of my head, and I'm just like, it's just a coincidence that I had that dream, right? I'm not really convinced that it's a dream from God, because at that time I'm not having a lot of dreams from God. So anyway, we fast forward a couple years and I'm in college. I'm playing Call of Duty like any good, college student did at that time. And then I go to sleep and I have this dream. I see a whole bunch of soldiers running, and then I see an American flag, and then I see a man with a white beard and shoulder length white hair, and he says, I'm gonna put my sword through America. Now, even though he didn't go into details, for whatever reason, I just understood in the dream that Jesus was gonna punish America. Like, I knew exactly what he meant, and I knew exactly why. And I don't know how I knew that, because he didn't go into detail. He just said that I'm gonna put my sword through America, right? But I knew what he meant. I knew he was gonna punish America for some things they were doing that he didn't like. And then I woke up, and of course, I had never heard the phrase, I'm gonna put my sword through a particular nation, because I wasn't reading the Bible like that at this time. So I never heard that. It wasn't until years later that I recognized the phrase when I was reading the Bible in the Old Testament, when God is gonna punish Israel because they're worshiping other gods, they're treating the poor and the widows unfairly, they're treating foreigners unfairly, there's a lot of innocent blood being spilled on the lands, and they're having like wild sex parties and stuff like that. And so God tells Israel, I'm going to put my sword through Israel, right? He was going to punish the nation for their sins. And I remember reading that and being like, whoa, wait a minute. God said that in a dream, and there's no way I knew that verse up until now. But I heard that verse in a dream, and I was like, wait a second. God said this. And so I get a little spooked out, but at the same time, it's like, everything seems kind of normal, so I keep it pushing, right? I just push it out of my mind. I'm like, maybe it was a dream from God, maybe not. It's kind of weird that that verse was said in the dream, and I never read the Bible like that before. So anyway, then I'm in LA. I'm living in Santa Monica, and I'm fasting a lot at that time. I'm fasting and reading the Bible a lot at that time. I go to sleep one night, and I have a dream where, like, I see Santa Monica, and it looks like ashen. The buildings look like somebody shot missiles through the building or something like that. And I see hordes of people who look disheveled, just kind of all traveling the streets, right, in a big horde. And it looks like they're trying to get away from the beach area. And everybody's traveling, trying to get away from the beach. Everybody looks distressed, disheveled, scared. And this one woman asked this other lady, what happened? Do you know what it was? And this lady says, it was the Russians. The Russians attacked us. The Russians are coming. And I woke up, and I just woke up like very afraid. Like it just gave me a foreboding feeling. And this is when I started to think, okay, I think God is really talking to me. I think he is really telling me that Russia is going to attack America. We're going to war with Russia. And this is the year, I think, before the whole Russia-Ukraine thing happens, or maybe it was the same year. I think it was the year before. But so I put that in my mind. I say, okay, I'm on the lookout for this now. And so then a little later, I have a dream where I'm like, I know I'm in Russia. I'm like on the Russian countryside, but I have this foreboding feeling, and I feel like a Russian army is coming my way, and I get nervous. And what I'm aware of in the dream, without seeing it, is that there's American soldiers and they're in Russia. And I know that American soldiers are in Russia, and I also know there's a Russian army coming towards them. And then I wake up, I don't think much about it because I'm kind of like, I don't really get that one. So I kind of log in the back of my mind, and I'm like, strange. Okay, and then after that, I leave LA, I lose my job. I'm thinking about applying for this job in LA, but I'm not sure. I go to sleep that night, and I see a whole bunch of military ships coming towards Santa Monica. And I know they're Russian. I just know they're Russian somehow. And I see a man in a white suit, shoulder length white hair, white beard. I know it's Jesus. His, skin translucent, kind of shine. It's just really shiny. And he says, remember what I told you? Don't go to LA. Remember what I told you was going to happen to LA. And then he says, I like San Diego. And then he shows me San Diego, and he shows me like the pier. And San Diego is only 3 hours from LA, so I don't understand why that would be safer, but I'm assuming maybe because they do have a stronger military presence there, and I know they have like Navy ships there, so maybe that's why. But then I wake up from that and I'm like, okay, I'm officially not going back to LA. Because I'm spooked out, I'm scared, and I'm like, well, not really scared, but I'm just kind of like very aware now that, okay, this isn't my mind, this isn't dreams, this isn't a video game. Jesus is directly telling me LA is going to be attacked. Do not go back there. Okay, so then a little bit later, I think it happens the same year, maybe just a month or two later. And this is in 2023. I have a dream. I see a black news anchor, black female news anchor. She's in her 40s, a white news anchor. He's maybe in his 50s or 60s. They're at a anchor desk or whatever you call it. And she's announcing the weather, and on the weather the meteorologist shows like Russia, and it has American tanks all over it. It's raining American tanks over Russia. And then the black female anchor, she says the Russians were beating us, but then God delivered it. No, actually what she said is the Russians were beating us, and then he delivered us. And I remember thinking, who's he? Who's he? And it took me a while to realize she's talking about Jesus. And then they got really happy. Like, they were just so happy that God had delivered us. And so what I basically got from it is that, okay, God is going to let Russia attack us, but then he's going to deliver America. Now, why he decides to deliver America, I'm not sure. Maybe we chilled out a little bit. Because they was wilding in the 20s without going into it. They was doing like crazy stuff in the 20s that you wouldn't think they were doing. And then they get into World War II, and then things calm down somewhat, and you have the whole nuclear family and moving to the suburbs, and you have the 40s and 50s, which is known as a more conservative time when you compare it to the 20s. Like, the 20s, people really were like off the chain. And then the 40s and 50s, they start to calm down. But then, when you get towards the end of the 50s, things start to get more crazy again. And then you get into the 60s, and you have like the sexual revolution and all that stuff. And then, America gets lit again, right? So I don't know if America calmed down a little bit, and so that's why he delivered them, or what. There were no details. And so, yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got on that. I will say I saw something else. I think this is a separate occurrence from this war with Russia, but maybe it's not. I'm not honestly sure. I think this is an end times thing, but I'm not sure. I just know in the dream I was on an airplane, and they said they were gonna be heading towards Russia. And I got a very fearful feeling. And I remember saying, oh no, not these guys. They're never up to anything good. And I don't know why I said that or what made me say that. But then I start hearing Ezekiel 28. Probably because I was listening to Ezekiel when I went to sleep or something. I don't know. But it's talking about Tarnish and his young pups. Tarnish was a nation in the Bronze Age. It was kind of like a seafaring nation. They had a strong kind of navy, and it says it's young pups, which is another nation that's kind of like related to Tarnish in some way, but not as old. So in the dream, I'm hearing the verse about Tarshish and its young pups. I see a map of the Atlantic Ocean and like this square or rectangular board piece that I just knew represented the UK Royal Navy. And I remember thinking it's weird that I'm seeing this board piece and not the real Navy. And then I was on an island, but I was watching from a distance, and I'll never forget this. I saw a mushroom cloud over New York, and I knew that New York had gotten nuked. But I also knew I wasn't in America at the time. I was at an island, and my family's from the islands. So I don't know if that plays into something or maybe it's metaphorical, but I was watching from a distance as New York got nuked, and I saw the mushroom cloud over them. And then I see a map of the world, and I see the Navy get whited out. Like somebody took white out and they whited out the Navy for the UK. And then they whited out New York. Both of these things were completely whited off of the map of the world. Like these places were just gone. They were just gone. And I got a fearful feeling and then I woke up. But I think this is something that happens way, way towards the end. I don't think this is the same event as us going to war with Russia. But anyway, how do you end a video like this, right? Like I just said a whole bunch of depressing things. How can I end happily? Like, hey guys, well, there you go. There's our video. See you next week. But anyway, I guess the one positive thing you can get from this is God is clearly showing, I know everything that's going to happen. I'm in control. Nothing is out of my control, right? Yeah, he showed a horrible war with Russia, but he also showed that we get delivered, right? And that he's the one personally that delivered us. So God is showing, you know, there is going to be redemption for America. They will be delivered. And so I guess, I don't know if he was saying that just to warn me ahead of time not to be afraid. But so I'm warning people ahead of time. If you see these things, not to be afraid. Don't get scared. Just know God is going to deliver us, and don't do anything drastic, right? Just in case somebody happens to see this years and years down the line, don't do anything drastic. Don't do anything crazy. If you live in LA, I'm not telling you to leave LA. If you live in New York, I'm not telling you to leave New York, right? However, if you live in LA and you happen to see warships coming towards Santa Monica, right? Because when there's a war, you know it's coming typically, unless it's a surprise like Pearl Harbor or something. But at this point, we're gonna know if warships are coming towards us, I think, because of sonar and stuff like that. But you know, if you're living in LA years and years from now and you happen to see on the news that warships are coming towards you, maybe just go to Vegas for the weekend, right? I'm not telling anybody to get up and leave. I'm not telling anybody to panic, right? God is not a God who likes panic and chaos. I'm just saying, you know, use a Holy Spirit. If you happen to see something that feels like we're about to go to war with Russia and you live in LA, maybe just, you know, spend the weekend in Colorado or something and see what happens. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, you know, just these dreams taught me basically, hey, have faith in God, trust in God. God's in control. He knows everything that's going to happen. He's outside of time. And he knows everything that's going to happen, and he knows how to order your steps. You know what I'm saying? He kept me from going back to LA. So he knew, he's like, yo, I see what you're planning, and that's not a good idea for you, right? And that's the kind of God we serve. And not only did he say, I don't think that's a good idea, then he said, you know what? I know a place that I like that I feel like you should go. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of God we serve. He protects us, and he's our friend, right? So sometimes he'll be like, hey, I know something that I think you should do that I think will benefit you more, right? That's the God we serve. So yeah, with that being said, I'll see y'all next time. Peace.